MCARBO Brotherhood. Today we're here at Shoot Straight in Clearwater, Florida. So my good friend David, the manager here, he actually has a KEL-TEC Sub-2000, and I spoke to him last night. I actually was just in the store. We happened to have a conversation, and so I told him I'd make a believer out of him. Let's go see if we can make him an MCARBO believer. See what he thinks about the trigger pull, see what he thinks about the new machined aluminum trigger guard, and then the new upgraded screws. We're actually going to go in and shoot too. So the whole upgraded Sub-2000. Get ready. Hey guys, we're going to install a bunch of the MCARBO parts into David's KEL-TEC Sub-2000. He was kind enough to let us use his personal firearm. He was actually curious and interested to see what these sort of parts would do for him. So we're going to put it in right here in the store, and we're going to let him shoot it when he's done. See what he thinks. So, David, you're doing the honors on the trigger pull right here. Let's see what his factory trigger pull is before we get started. 7 pounds, 6.5 ounces. So we'll do one more just to verify. Just hit that button. No two trigger pulls are ever the same, so just going to get an average. So 7 pounds, 15.5 ounces. So it's damn near 8-pound trigger pull. KEL-TEC advertises 9 to 10-pound trigger pull, but as you can see, there's all sorts of different tolerances. Some people will have a lighter. Is this pretty used? Have you used it quite a bit? Yeah. Maybe 300-400 rounds. Okay, so it is broken in a little bit. It's not a brand new firearm, so that definitely helps. I'm interested to see what kind of results we get. Stand by. Let's put this stuff in. All right, so we're getting ready to pull David's Sub-2000 apart right now. As you guys have seen before, you know how I use the handle of the hammer there to just get it loose in the magazine well, and then I'm going to take the screwdriver and kind of work it around. Just kind of pull it apart. It's already kind of coming apart. Ejection port side facing up. Okay. This actually stuck in here pretty good. Look at that. I've never seen that happen. That's interesting. All your internals here. So typically this would be over here, but this is your trigger bar, trigger return spring, trigger. You've got your sear spring, sear. You've got your hammer spring, and your safety, of course. Pull that out. So we'll go ahead and we'll drop the hammer, pull that little sear spring out. Go ahead and remove the sear. Go ahead and remove your hammer spring. You always want to take notice of the direction where everything's facing, so it's best just to leave it together, you know, until you do the swap and just mimic exactly what you got there. Having all the threaded studs on the same side always helps. This is your trigger bar. And remember, the long leg of the trigger return spring is up here on this tab. So, let's pull that apart. Set that aside for right now. And then this trigger is really tight on there, so we don't need this plastic trigger anymore. Set it there. Alright, now you can go ahead and pull up on your trigger guard. Oh, look at that. That actually broke, or that ripped, or maybe that's just a crappy piece of plastic. Yeah, no, it broke. So there's one of the disadvantages to a polymer trigger guard. Good thing we're getting rid of that. So let's go ahead and just replace the trigger guard real quick. So we'll take the MCARBO machined aluminum trigger guard. We're going to take the longer leg of the spring to get that piece of polymer off of there. All right, longer leg of the spring, it's this one here. You're going to lay that down inside the track, and you're going to go ahead and you're going to just drop it in. You're going to get some leverage. Okay, there. You should have some good tension on it. Okay. All right, now we're going to go ahead and replace the hammer spring. So you're just going to pull this pin right out. Now you want to take notice of how the factory spring's laying in there. So obviously we're going to do exactly what the factory did. So we've got it positioned accordingly. Drop it right in like that. Drop the pin right in, hammer hinge pin. Make sure it's all the way in. Go ahead. You want these legs of the spring to be behind this stud. So let's go ahead and insert that there. You're going to have your sear. You're going to have this tab facing up. All right, we got our sear spring. So we'll go ahead and we're going to drop sear right in there. We're going to stage that. All right, put your sear spring on. Remember, it's this combined movement. Take a look at the installation video. This isn't really an installation video, it's just kind of a third-party validation. I was just telling David this is the first time I ever did this, so we were just joking that I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express, right? So that makes it all good.
Be good.
All right, so then with the trigger bar, your trigger return spring, you're gonna obviously have the longer leg up. So drop that, put the MCARBO trigger return spring on here. Okay, so there's the longer leg up. All right, so then a neat little trick that I haven't shown you guys, let's grab the trigger. So we're gonna take our machined aluminum trigger, drop it in the top hole, okay? Now this is all one piece. So you've got the brand new MCARBO machined aluminum trigger, you got the MCARBO trigger return spring here, and you see the longer leg is up and it's touching that tab. That's the whole idea behind it. Oh, and stay tuned, we've got a trigger bar coming soon. So I hate to put that out there, but you're gonna have to crack this baby back open if you want to get rid of your pre-travel. So we've got something to get rid of your pre-travel in the future. So you drop it right on this hinge pin right here. And this is the cool trick that I've learned since the installation video. See how I just kind of wrapped it around? So basically I just manipulate that trigger bar to where I can get the short leg in position. And I get the long leg, on that tab of the trigger bar itself, and it just kind of wraps and falls into place. And you got to delicately massage it. There we go. Good. So we've got our forward, backward, we've got our up and down. So, and like I always point out, we stage the hammer in the proper position. So it's, forward just like this. And none of our springs are overlapping the threaded stud. We've even got our sear spring tucked in between the polymer and the threaded stud there, so it's holding it in place nicely. We've got the long leg of our trigger return spring on that tab, and I showed you that neat little trick on how to wind it back. It's much easier than taking your punch and trying to fiddle with that short leg. All right, so take your mag release, empty magazine, of course. Make sure that little dimple sits right in that hole. We've got an extended mag release coming out soon. I'm going to show you guys a little bit of that. If you look at our top secret R&D page, if you've been invited, you can follow along and see what we're doing there. So once you've got everything in place, you're going to make sure that your trigger guard has got proper tension. That spring's not sticking out. You make sure that trigger bar moves up and down, forward, backward. Okay. Make sure all your springs are in place. You got your hammer spring, sear spring, trigger return spring. Everything looks good. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and just put the other side of the polymer pistol grip back in here. And you want to get that nice pop, that warm and fuzzy. Everything's going together. And it helps too if you actually forward deploy it. Make sure you got everything lined up. There you go. So we're in there now. And this is when we're going to actually start installing those black oxide 12.9 class screws. So you can see the difference there, David. Black oxide and MCARBO screw, and then the regular alloy factory screw. You see how those two. One's super shiny, one's really dull, nothing really to it. And this, the MCARBO screw is actually a 12.9 class, and this is a 10.9. So nice little upgrade, can't beat it. So now we get all the screws back in, got to class it in half. And we've got this toothbrush, which seems to work pretty well, just because it is plastic, but you want to push that hammer back. So you take your punch, get it started for you, and then just push it straight back till it locks. So it's quite a push, all the way back. We had somebody asking about it the other day. It feels like it's going to break. You really got to jam that thing all the way back. So this plastic brush has never failed. A wooden dowel would work good too. Might look a little better. All right. All right. So fire is going to be on the left side. That's insert it where the trigger bar is. So you're going to take the safety side, the non-fire side here. You're going to insert that first. Put some tension on it, then take your punch, go through the other side, and lift up on that trigger bar. And it'll slide right in. Okay, and what the idea is, we're going to get the clip on one side, But before we do that, we've got to get this little detent in there. So detent's got to go in. You can take your flathead screwdriver, or if you've got a razor blade, that's how I recommend doing it. But we can do it with a screwdriver. Then take your C-clip. Go ahead and slide that on. Don't lose it. This is the most dangerous part. This is the thing you're going to lose. But if you lose any of this stuff, you know you can always go to KEL-TEC's website. They've got a ton of these things. It's even handy to keep these parts on hand. You know, we've got a bunch of them. Like, you can buy these C-clips. I think for like a 2-pack is like $1, I think. So they're fairly reasonable with that stuff. So make sure they're snapped on. That one doesn't look like it's seated. There we go. So make sure it locks on both sides. Good. All right, so we got the new trigger spring kit installed. We've got the target trigger, we've got the new screws, and we've got the machined aluminum trigger guard. All right. So 4 pounds, 6.4 ounces, right there, in less than 45 minutes. That's pretty slow, guys. That took me 45 minutes to get that in. I bet some of you can do it faster. We did all the upgrades in 45 minutes. So that's pretty good. We can do one more trigger pull reading just to make sure. £5 pounds, 5.0 ounces. So we're in that 4.5, 5 pound trigger pull range. No two trigger pulls are ever exactly the same. So that's pretty exciting. So we got at least a 2 pound, 2.5 pound drop.
Took like 3 pounds off that trigger at least.
Yep. So it doesn't flex anymore. You've actually got a nice clean break at the end. Yeah. Rather than an 8 pound pull and then a plastic trigger that flexes you.
Yeah, because you could feel that flex the whole time.
Yep.
Right on.
Good.
Let's check this thing out.
All right. All right, good. Now let's go shoot this thing. You punched it light.
That thing feels crisp.
Yeah?
Nice. It's real nice.
Night and day?
Night and day difference. Night and day.
That's awesome. Would you say your accuracy improved? I mean, it's killer.
It definitely settled it way down. No more sponginess to it, no flex. No, it's dialed in. That's nice.
Are you a believer now?
I'm a believer.
Yeah? Awesome. Thanks
Very
brother.
much, man. Appreciate it. It's awesome.
Absolutely. Happy to help.
Pretty good.
Chart on our website. Comparisons. That's pretty solid.
Yeah, I love it, man.
You actually punched.
I got it eyes, nose, in the mouth, man. That's the plan.
Look at that. Shooting. So could you shoot like that with your sub before, or?
I mean, I could punch out some tight groups.
Yeah.
But it was almost like it was kind of laborsome.
Yeah.
With that spongy crack.
Yeah.
And flex, but this just makes it. You can double tap a little faster.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Good. That's what I like to hear.